A very good morning, and it's a pleasure to have you join us on today's edition of Political Spectrum, coming to you live on Spectrum Television. The latest happenings around the electioneering period, most of which were into its final and concluding stages with the supplementary elections held across the country on Saturday, April 15. Well, we talked about the heated activity surrounding INEC and the state of the elections that were left inconclusive following the March 18 polls, which led to the ribbon elections we had on Saturday. And the heated controversy, of course, is not unconnected to the decision of the resident Aisha Benani, the APC gubernatorial candidate as governor-elect of Adamawa State, even when the process had not been concluded. We'll tell you, of course, about the latest with regards to the decision taken by INEC, and of course we'll put you up to speed with the rest of the day's biggest political news stories and events before we come on. But do stick around. When we come back from this break, political updates on Political Spectrum is up next. Welcome back, and many thanks for staying with us. You're watching Political Spectrum live on Spectrum Television. As always, you can connect with us on StarTimes DTH Channel 421. And don't forget, for live feeds, just head to our social page, which will be centered on the 2023 elections and whether or not it is the worst in the annals of the nation's political history. We'll start up a regular update with the day's biggest political news stories and events. So let's go to Adamawa State, where the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, has directed one of its resident electoral commissioner, Barrister Hudu Yunusa Ari, in the state, had stirred controversy on Sunday morning when he announced Aisha Benani Dahiru, the candidate of the APC, as the winner of the polls, a move that was not within his constitutionally given authority, in that he announced the results of the election, whose coalition process had not been concluded. And this had caused tension within the state and also stirred a great debate. Benani, as winner of the Adamawa governorship election, as null and void, adding that the pronouncement is of no effect. Well, consequently, INEC suspended the collation of the results of the supplementary election and also invited the REC, the returning officer, and Olafi put out a communique strongly directing that Barrister Yunusa Ari should stay away from the Commission's office in Adamawa State until further notice. But the statement further disclosed that the Commission's administrative senatorial candidate of the All Progressives Congress in Adamawa State, Senator Aishatu Banani, has dragged the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, before a federal high court in Abuja. Binani is seeking a judicial review in 2023. Now, the application for leave to bring the application for judicial review was contained in an ex-parte application filed on April 17, make that yesterday. Now, sued with the Commission were also the PDP and its governorship candidates, Governor Madu Finturi, were listed as the first, second, and third defendants, respectively. Now, the application was brought pursuant to Order 34, Rules 1A, Order 3, Subsection 1, and Subsection 3 of A and R of the 1999 Constitution and Section 149 and 152, respectively, of the Electoral Act of 2022. Well, Senator Binani is contending that INEC has no power to cancel the declaration of a candidate as the winner of an election, other than the DAP election of April 15 and the subsequent collation of same result. INEC had declared her as the winner of the governorship election, and she was thereby returned as elected. Now, she also argued that the only court with a power on a declaration made by the conduct of an election is the Election Petition Tribunal set up by the 1999 Constitution. Also, it has no powers to cancel or declare the declaration of result as being null and void. Now, elsewhere, Vice President Yemi Osibanjo was in Kuru Plateau State yesterday, where he warned that Nigeria's leadership elites in their contest for power must not toy with prejudice. Disclosed this in a statement he signed yesterday. Osibanjo said they should rather embody a high sense of responsibility that will build a new Nigeria with justice, equity, and shared prosperity. But the Vice President was speaking at the Maiden Policy Making and Good Governance Lecture Series of the National Institute of Policy and Strategic Studies, Kuru, in Plateau State, where he noted that the leadership elite have the duty to conduct us. Now, the Nigeria Labour Congress, NLC, has vowed to resist any plot to derail the Labour Party, especially now that it is enjoying wide acceptance by Nigerians. But the vow was made yesterday when the leadership of the Labour Union stormed the National Secretariat of the Labour Party at Utako in the Federal Capital Territory, Abuja, to show solidarity with the embattled those who want to usurp the party's leadership. Well, the Labour Party has recently been immersed in a leadership crisis following an Abuja High Court interim injunction, which restrained Julius Abure from parading himself as the national chairman of the Labour Party. Now, arising from the FCT court order, the party's national vice chairman, South, Lamido Apapa, had assumed the position of the chairman in an acting capacity. However, of Nigerian politics in recent times, stressing that there were laid down procedures to follow before any change of leadership can take effect. Now, he added that under no circumstance would the labor movement allow anyone to derail the party, which he said they had worked hard to recover from imposters. Meanwhile, as a follow-up on that, the High Court yesterday refused to vacate the interim order restraining the erstwhile national chairman, Julius Abure, the national secretary, Alhaji Farouk Ibrahim, and two others from parading themselves as leaders of the Labour Party. A counsel for Abure, Alex Ejeseme San, had prayed the court to vacate the interim judgments, saying the restraining order had worsened the weekend. Justice Mwazul declined the prayer and rather ordered all the parties to ensure the speedy filing of their processes. Now, the judge adjourned the matter till April 20 for further hearing on all pending applications on the matter. Let's go to Kogi State now, where former Deputy Governor Yomi Awoniyi has faulted the People's Democratic candidate was dangerous. Now, stressing that the primary election lacked credibility, Awoniyi claimed that Malaya's votes were a product of what he called a tainted delegates list. Malaya's victory portends great danger to the unity of the PDP and the prospect of winning the November 11 governorship election in Kogi State. He argued that it was unfair to give an aspirant 158 votes in a contest for 739 votes with 8 other journalists. David Ondayin over publications about President-elect Bola Ahmed Tinubu. Ondayin had over the weekend leaked some private information of the former governor of Lagos State, alleging that he had dual citizenship in Nigeria and Guinea. Ondayin's tweet naturally stirred a barrage of reactions on the microblogging platform, with Tinubu already engrossed in so many controversies before and after the February 25 presidential election in which it was declared winner by INEC. Well, the latest publication about Tinubu by Ondayin claims that the president-elect may have that his personal account was reported for posting private information and is temporarily locked. Well, here is what Twitter's private information and media policy actually states on related matters, and I'll read that to you quickly. You may not publish or post or incentivizing others to do so. Now, further checks this morning, personally checked it out myself, similar move by David Ondayin himself, or Twitter actually effecting, the lockage of his account. Well, David Ondayin is a known staunch supporter of the Labour Party's presidential period. Well, as far as INEC and the role of this election is concerned, we mirror all of that across elections taking place in Nigeria held in the annals of the nation's history. When we come back from this break, political affairs analyst Bernard Titus will be joining us to bear his thoughts on this issue. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back shortly.
Transformation that Africa has undergone in recent decades. Africa is shaping its own destiny and should be referred to as the African opportunity. On Spotlight Africa, we paint the African picture the African way, laced with truth, detail, and the color of the African continent. Join Uyai Anyekan every Tuesday.
Exist only to meet the needs of the people, but there's an extra advantage if your product and services are pitched on a platform that gives you the added advantage over your competitors. For your desired free-to-air with a frequency of 12733, Spectrum Television, broadening your horizon.
Security. Education, health, lifestyle, and so much more. Join Janice Kobum and Uyai Anyekan every weekday from 7 a.m. to 9 a.m. on Rise and Shine Day.
Society is premised on the quality of relationships forged by its inhabitants. The health of these relationships determines how well people relationships, organizations thrive, and 3 p.m. on channel 421 on Star Times to catch all the conversations, interviews, real stories, and how to navigate relationships and family life in the 21st century. Real people, real faces, real stories. Connect.
Thank you very much indeed for staying with us. You're still watching Political Spectrum live on Spectrum Television. Let's head straight to the burning story in Abuja has suspended the resident electoral commissioner for the state, Barrister Yunusa Hudu Ari, who, against constitutional provisions and guidelines of the Electoral Act, usurped the power of the returning officer Melilamido in the state to oversee not just in Adamawa but across the country as well, with onlookers describing the scenes as a political shame. Well, INEC has issued a statement to that effect, courtesy of the Commissioner for Information and Voter Education, being told to stay away from the INEC office in Adamawa State or anything to do with the gubernatorial elections in the state. This followed his summon to Abuja by the state, has now been asked to take over of affairs of INEC in Adamawa State, pending further decision by the body. Well, we'll look at the overriding issue on this as to whether or not this is the worst elections ever in the annals of the nation's history. Good morning to you, Bennett. Thanks for joining us today.
Thank you, Mr. Raymond.
We've seen so much drama characterize the entirety of the 2023 polls, but I wonder if the drama in Adamawa is the icing on the cake. We've never seen anything against the odds. It was a candidate who was trailing at the last count who was announced as governor-elect. The first question everyone seems to ask across the country, and we seem to solicit answer for, is whether Mr. Yunusa Hari was acting alone democracy by truncating the votes of the people of Adamawa State. Which way would you tilt as far as this issue is concerned?
You know, Raymond, you see, all of this is laughable. For me, I didn't expect nothing less than what happened. Political mismanagements and people who are not supposed to come and govern want to do it by all means. But however, this is popular statement. They say when the citadel of the justice system is corrupt. So we are gradually getting to that point where the political system structures are gradually collapsing by the same people, the same actors who, how will you be governing people? You are soliciting to govern people. I'm not surprised. Now, the question is, like you rightly asked, there are allegations that 2 billion was at stake. Official who announced the whole stuff when he was apprehended by the citizens, you know, and despite the fact that it was badly brutalized, I must, you know, condemn that aspect. But however, he didn't act alone. He can never act alone. There are a lot of unforeseen forces that, you know, have given him the go-ahead to do that.
One of the presumed unforeseen forces, I wouldn't want to call it unforeseen, because in this...
within the same timeline, we saw a publication by Festus Keyamo congratulating Benani. I'm like, what is going on?
He called it a victory for democracy, and it was sentiment also echoed by the likes of Senator Ishaku Abu, the senator representing Adamawa North.
That's right.
He said he was happy with the illegal declaration.
I'm wondering what set of have inculcated democratic tendencies and value to govern the system. So all we have are just a bunch of miscreants who have been opportune to be given power, and the power. What is condemnable constitutionally and otherwise is what they celebrate. So I'm wondering, they authorized INEC officially in the Damawa. I mean, the collision, I was surprised that there was no. Because why? It was a pre-planned subject matter.
I'll post you up on that for the benefit of the viewers. So we'll just give you a footage to show the lead up to the face-off between some of the polling or party agents who were at the coalition center, Aishatu Benani, as governor-elect for the Adamawa Giber election. From the footage you're seeing now, you could see discontent between some of the party agents of opposing political parties, but it appears Mr. Yunusa wasn't so bothered in doing something that has been widely viewed and regarded as illegal. Would you say at that stage it perhaps took the opposition from some of the party agents there? We got reports that most did. Otherwise, some have said maybe if we were quiet about this, it could have just, been taken.
Absolutely correct. So their reaction, Raymond, we are going to be seeing more of this in our country. In fact, in a short while, we'll have gunmen sit and announce election results in this country.
Hopefully not.
It doesn't
get to that stage.
Officially announce the result or collate the result, and then he's comfortably seated with his co-connivers, sit comfortably, and I'm not surprised. After all, the INEC chairman Mahmoud have just messed them freely, so every state representative of the INEC will definitely do likewise, and they go scot-free. So who are we going to, with the law, hold him responsible when Mahmoud is still there, when he has promised the nation globally that election was going to be conducted free and fair, election to be conducted on real time? I'm wondering what is wrong with all of them. So the electoral guideline is clearly spelled out, and he even quote them in the national TV. That is one point. Two, the lawyers or the SAN that make a mockery of our democracy and our institution, because the whole process now is go to court, and you go to court, they sit at the bench and make a mockery of the constitutions.
Interestingly, Aishatu Benani, the APC candidate, has headed to court suing INEC for what she said by Aishatu there, because the constitution provides that only a court can actually annul, the result of an election as announced by INEC. But yes, the twist there, yes, INEC is mandated to announce results, but there's an official of INEC saddled with that responsibility, and making an acceptance speech of a process she knew very well was not well concluded, and then deciding to take the matters to court to just comprehend things the more.
Raymond, I just elaborated. I just elaborated a few minutes ago the scenarios of the whole thing, starting from the to embrace Benani, because it's a pick-up time, it's a cash-out time. So nobody cares about moral compass anymore. It's a cash-out time for everybody. So you see a senior advocate who they should be preserving, and the constitutions is read some letters. So what exactly are they trying to tell us? That the law don't have any meaning anymore? Who in the first place announced that she won the election? On what ground was she even allowed to be given as an acceptance speech? Because the power that be at the national level, the likes of Festus Keyamo, has already congratulated her. And
perhaps he's speaking the minds of the presidency. Let's not forget, yesterday we saw a statement from Garba Shehu, the presidential aide, that Mr. President, in his 5th day in Saudi Arabia, has been well briefed about the supplementary elections. He is in the know about what happened in Adamawa State. And here is the minister of his administration and a top spokesperson of his party coming out to claim that he was satisfied and happy with a process that is illegal. What does this say of Mr. President's promise to give Nigerians free, fair and credible polls, something he hoped would be emerged as a legacy for him?
Destroy the entire system, and he has succeeded in doing so.
In what ways are you talking about?
Of course.
7 years ago, if I'm not mistaken,
Chibok girls were still there, and he vehemently stated very clear that he will take that election will be free and fair,
and anybody who wants to stand on his way will face the law. And I'm wondering, the same people, you can't speak in the same cabinet representing, whoever speaks represent the voice of the president at that point.
So whatever Festus Kayamo did,
come on, he is representing the power that be, and the highest office of the land of the nation. We don't have a record vividly traceable where he schooled. Secondly, we do not have a record of where his state of origin is. Thirdly, toward 25% of all the state, including an FCT. And then there you are saying that nobody will annul the 2023 election because unemployment is on the rise, about 44.5%
on the rise. What has he done? Absolutely nothing.
And Jonathan, they were going to make this state ungovernable
if they do anything funny, that it has a serious thing to do in the country.
Nigerian medical doctors are leaving, and the
National Assemblies are battling to pass a law that you have to, after your internship, save the country for 5 years before you leave. What law is that? You haven't the infrastructure. So a young guy who wants to go and find a greener pasture should save your nation when you can't sit and take any vacation or medical treatment in your own state or in your own local government. Let's sit down as a citizens and look at our criteria basis for leadership criteria. Something is fundamentally wrong with our selection process. We will sit down one day, we'll have criminals come to sit and then become high-neck officials and then make laws for us to follow.
There's been that most of these officials already have ties with some political parties, perhaps before being appointed into any role in INEC or drawn up to serve in whatever capacity. You were first and foremost a Nigerian with the right to a soul. That is somewhat rubbed off on some of the pockets of cases that we've seen that has not towed the line that most Nigerians expected in terms of INEC keeping up with expected integrity.
See, I think from 1999, in the history of our nation,
and Nigerians, they were hope. We had believed in the system and the process that at least we'll have it right after so many years of our existence. Doing one thing at the same method, same strategy, same blueprints, getting the same
elections were marred with irregularities. Can we readily sum it up to be the worst we have ever had in the nation's history, or perhaps it's just one of the ones, or if not the one, that has seen more reaction, so to say, in both elections and even other ones that we may have talked about? Can we say this one is the worst, or it's because today it's different? You have the level of conscientization in the parts of Nigerians is high, so people tend to speak out against these vices, as opposed to 2007, where everyone just said, well, whoever the gift
as big as it is, and the consciousness that this is our country, whatever we do, we must try to find a way to make it work, fix everything we need to fix. So every young person's, the permutation is not accurate. In 2007, it was not as bad as it is now.
As compared to about 300 billion. Take note, that is what Nigerian, the law, the National Assembly has. And we are not talking about the foreign donors that tripling in that election. And I'm wondering,
what exactly they do with the money? Funds. And the election, it was as better, it would have been conducted manually, as usual as it was, because we have absolutely nothing. So the citizen hope was that 2023 was going to be at least a stepping stone for us to get it right, gradually getting it right. But with the way it is going, it's worse. And like I stand corrected. If the president in May 29, and I still stand with Baba Hamid Dati comment on channel, if on May 29 these, I don't think anybody will follow the lawsuit anymore.
I'll come back to you on that, but let's head back to what happened in Adamawa State and follow up on the statements issued by INEC, which confirmed the suspension of Mr. Yunusa Ari Hudu, who was the erstwhile resident electoral commissioner for INEC, in the Independent National Electoral Commission. In his stead, the administrative secretary of INEC in Adamawa State has been granted permission to take charge of all activities surrounding the elections in Adamawa until a substantive rec has been announced for the commission, while Mr. Mele, which INEC has said would come in Yola, while the collation exercise would be concluded in Abuja. So, what do you say? Thumbs up to INEC. We're still talking about how best they've been able to manage the entire elections, and it seems like there's some areas we can say, well, they did quite well here, and this is just one of them. They're receiving some kind of praises for taking the right step in the right direction. First, to make it clear that the election that was, so you still have another 10 to go. So coming up to give out results when the coalition wasn't completed was an exercise in futility. And secondly, even at the last count, Binani was still trailing Governor Amadu Fintiri of the PDP. So even if you had to announce someone at that stage, I mean, everyone said the NBA should also suspend him from the bar, and others have also said he should be prosecuted. Better, this amounts to a constitutional crime. Usurping the powers constitutionally provided for another person in an election. I mean, why aren't we talking about an arrest here, an interrogation, and possible prosecution?
Remember, when we started earlier and I made a comment about the collapse and decay in the system. To be announced as a winner.
You think that is likely going to happen?
It's likely going to happen.
This is Nigeria.
Well, with so far, with the way things have blown out already, and everyone has their eyes on Adamawa State, you think it's still going to be possible? Not forgetting, this is the home state of Atiku Abubakar, the PDP presidential candidate. Do you also think his influence is somewhat playing a role with the way things have turned out?
Well, his influence, he's
an influential man, but at this point,
he's having a whole lot of tussle. You know, it got to a point when, in economics, it's what we call diminishing returns. So, get to a point where you start having diminishing management, and those who believe in your ideology, there is variance in the circle of your political thoughts. So, when that happens, definitely, people will start moving from you a little bit because, you know, there's no hope around that platform. So in his home state already, you've seen what is interplaying right from the time the PDP candidate from the primaries up till now.
Well, if you posit that somehow Binani could still go ahead to be announced,
it's possible.
Why? Yeah, it's possible. But why? It's possibly because they've emphasized that by the time the entire count is done, she would have lost out to Governor Amadu Fintiri. So if INEC has to continue the coalition exercise based on the votes already collated but yet to be announced, then there's a good chance she may lose out. It just begs the question of what would happen to her when she went ahead to make an acceptance speech that came from a results that were not legal.
Raymond, as we speak, the same government officials is likely interceding for her as we speak. And like I said, we shouldn't be surprised tomorrow and she becomes the governor of Adamawa State. And then you see some lawyer, senior advocate of Nigeria, comes and defends why she should be allowed to govern. And before our acceptance speech was done, believe you me, there are a lot of internal politics that took effect within a short space of time that gave her that boost her morale to say, go ahead, hey, nothing's going to happen, go ahead and do it. The president to brief them what likely is their decision, and that they will want to ensure, in one way or the other, they frustrate Atiku from installing or his continual influence in Adamawa State. So there's a lot of tussle play as the governor of Adamawa State. Why? Because those criminal-minded individuals will do everything possible to always, present their like minds to us. And I think it is high time that every quarter of the nations, as we love this country, to start to question their motives, because they are passing the same ideology to us. It's sad. Series of years of fighting battle, and if we saw the military, the same thing. It doesn't make any sense, because there's power tussle. And what exactly are people fighting for? A couple of weeks ago, I saw this of where he travels, and the amount of crude per barrels were sold from 2004 up to date. Remember, Nigeria is on broke, and I was sitting, gluing my eyes on the national TV, taking stock of the figures. I'm like, and he asked, he said, the Accountant General of the Federation and the NMPC senior, and nobody's asking anything. So, like I said, we are in a state where the entire structure is failing, and that's why I keep saying, I'm emphasizing, and I'll re-emphasize. If we go ahead on the May 29 to swear in a president who did not meet the Nigerian constitution,
we will let INEC to answer, but we'll do well to measure up the indices that could perhaps form the opinion of whether or not this was the worst elections ever held in the annals of the nation's history. We'll hold our thoughts on that when we come back from this very, very short time out. In seconds, Political Spectrum will continue. Stay with us.
Business exists only to meet the needs of the people, but there's an extra advantage if your product and services are pitched on a platform that gives you the added advantage over your competitors. For your desired return on investment and so much more, advertise on Spectrum Television, on StarTimes DTH Channel 421 and on free-to-air with a frequency of 12733. Spectrum Television, broadening your horizon.
Mirroring issues surrounding the generality of the 2023 elections and whether or not it is the worst ever to be conducted in the annals of the nation's history. And there's a particular focal point to look at, which arguably some would say is the icing on the cake as far as controversy goes with the latest election, coming from Adamawa State, where INEC has announced the suspension of the resident electoral commissioner, Dr. Hudu Yunusa Ari, for going ahead to announce Aishatu Benani Dahiru, the APC candidate, as governor-elect, when the coalition process was not yet concluded. In a statement issued by Festus, anything to do with the election, while of course we're told the coalition process would continue in Abuja, while the announcement of governor-elect would take place in Yola. We've been mirroring these issues and more. Back to you, Bernard. You're looking at everything that has ensued in the course of this post. I've already talked about the government insisting that grievances should be channeled to court, and there's always been that question about Nigeria. Olukayode Ariwola went to France in disguise, or to the UK rather, in disguise, to meet with President-elect Bola Tinubu. Claims that have been denied by both quarters, but it would not stop the rumors from going away. All of the allegations we have seen that have pointed towards these elections characterized by massive irregularities and broad daylight attempts, who are simply saying, let's do the right thing. What do you think we're headed with the kind of elections we're having? Sooner or later, 2027 would be around the corner and we'll be prepping up for another exercise, and yet we haven't gotten previous ones right.
Raymond, I don't think there is hope anymore in our judicial system. You know, with all respect to a few, but in a broad sense, there is no hope for the judicial system in Nigeria, because we've not seen, was it in Gabon? I saw the victory of the judicially annulling election of the president. And I saw how, I can't remember which of the African country, the excitement of the citizens was nothing to compare. So we are in a country as we speak that, even as we speak, the citizens already will be given up. The vice presidential elect of the APC was also at the same time a senator nominee at the same time, concurrently. And here we also have another fresh findings of the president-elect of having a dual, dual citizenship. The senior advocate of Nigeria, some are trying to debunk the narcotic nation.
Just as a follow-up on that, we heard reports that Twitter has suspended the accounts of, or locked rather, not suspended, the account of the journalist in question, David Ondain, over those remarks. And you would have said that's a surprise, because before now, Twitter seemed to have upheld, contents put out by users, as opposed to the kind of opposition they would face from government across country where the microblogging platform is operated on. We know the face-off the Nigerian government had with Twitter recently, because and it took a while before operations in Nigeria could resume. Would you say this is Twitter just being careful, considering the contents of that tweet were surrounding the personality of one who would likely be president if everything goes through the way he wants it, Mr. Tinubu, and they would not want to be on his wrong side, considering the disadvantage of losing over 40 million Twitter users in Nigeria? Or they could just say, let's do what is right. And maybe the overbearing influence of someone like David Ondain, who resides in the United States, is also a very key factor. But looked, as he claimed.
Yes, it is fact that his account has been. Well, here is the point I'm looking at. I think in the history of our country, Jonathan is was the most insulted. If my memory serves me right, the most insulted president in the history of this country. Yes, and he still left the scene honorably, respectfully, morally, without causing any sin. And we have seen videos, social media posts of his own aide insulting people, insulting our constitution at all quarters of the government. They haven't done anything. No arrest, no taking down of the social media platform or a caution. Okay, he categorically stated that some people are planning to overtake the government or to cause or incite violence in the country, and they call him to come and present the claim. He didn't have any claim, and a few days later, he was that an apology? He was in arrest. Social media didn't do anything about it. If you go to his post, his social media handle, him and Keyamo, you see a whole lot of trolling that they do on people. That has not happened. So why is David handing on become more concrete or something to look at? Is because the Minister of Works and Transport, Fashola, interview, and I'm wondering, what was he saying exactly? In all the question as presented by, he was saying absolutely non-irrelevant issues that does not have anything to do with the question he was asked. So what exactly are they hiding? So the truth is very clear that, well, I quite agree with Elon Musk for management should some little bit of caution, quite okay.
To unravel the claims that have been put forward now by David Ondane, because it's a claim that he has committed perjury, meaning going to a process on illegal grounds, because as far as constitutional provisions is concerned, you cannot aspire for the highest office in the country when you have a dual citizenship. So if it is indeed proven that Tinubu is a Nigerian and a Guinean citizen, who's going to bring out the papers? Yes, the Nigerian government could easily produce papers to show Tinubu is a Nigerian. Would the Guineans want to do so? There's already premise claims about the influence Tinubu has in Guinea with Nigerians by exposing the documents that could likely take down his person.
I don't think.
The cartel will always, they will always want to cover their own house because nobody will trust them. It's very clear. We saw in 2015, we saw the president of Guinea publicly on, I think Punch also covered it, publicly advocating and soliciting today should be given opportunity to lead the country. And we saw it very clear before now that they both have been very related and have a good cordiality together. And then before David came up with the whole all of these dual citizenship in Nigeria, we saw a video or a picture of him a couple of months ago, or barely a month now, sneaking to a wheelchair. I'm like, oh, finally, is he crippled now? He's whereabouts.
We're told he's in France observing the monthly Ramadan fasting.
So we told.
And some quarters are also saying that his health is critically very bad. And the question now
is, at what point are we going to have presidents clearly spell out their health report to the Nigerian? In fact, I don't see who go ahead to swear in a man who didn't meet our constitutional requirements. I think the nation should better, they should better get prepared to fold up the police. We now
authority versus the citizens. So when you did yours, what happened? Nobody held you accountable. So that's what's going to happen. You're going to a complete anarchy. That's exactly what's going to happen. So in all the billions stolen, what happened? Also point to some criminal tendencies within the government was also called to question. What are they telling us? That's to tell you how the system works.
So
and a couple of days ago, we saw another reliable media outfit give a statistics of fundings that were looted, and it was the same man who was, the videos are out there, that he can never join the APC. He was saying all sorts of things I can't say in the national TV, and he's the same man now because the table has turned. And I'm wondering, I've been trying to check the case, international case that Festus Keyamo has won. I don't know, I've not seen one. As I'm trying to check, he claims he's been fighting certain litigation with the EFCC. I've been trying to see one case profoundly he has won. I've not seen.
All right, that's quite an interesting claim, I'd say. But going forward, Professor Oti choose to stand her ground as the resident electoral commission, or the returning officer rather, for the elections in Abia State, by insisting that the will of the people must stand, which led to the emergence of Alex Oti of the Nigerians amongst the international community. I was looking at trends yesterday, especially on Twitter and social media, and hashtag Adamawa Guba kept on being up there, hashtag Yunusa Hari, several other negative hashtags that you might think of. And I did mention before, we have another election in just under another 4 years' time. A lot of persons are already preparing for 2027, even when we haven't sworn in the victorious parties from the just concluded election. Our democracy can be compared to what is obtainable in other climes. But it's always been about the will. Do we have the will? As a people, first. We can't talk about the government anymore because the government is always flattered to deceive. But you're only allowed as much power as the people give to you. Do Nigerians have the will to say, going forward, we want to see these kind of things happen again?
Firstly, we have the will. You see, after MKO Abiola time, I think that was 1979, if I'm not mistaken.
93.
1993. 1993.
Mm.
Another dispensation is now where Peter Obi came with freshness in the system. And we've seen are now having, the National Assembly will be having not two-party affair anymore. It's going to be multi-party decision making. So the floor will be in Abia. The Abian deserves it. I mean, if you travel along these roads from Ikore, for instance, just that would have taken you within 30 minutes or 45 minutes at most, or an hour, for instance. You'll be amazed. And you keep wondering from Ajusoka, 1999 Ajusoka time down, what exactly has been true? Going forward, if the country we can have the likes of the prof that is being celebrated across all fora now, if we can have our kind in across all states, this country will be heading on a good direction. We saw what she did, and she stood her ground. That state. Let's the people take a look at it across all state. Such excitement happened only on some few states. Now, thirdly, we've also seen the drama that is gradually unfolding within Weekend and Dino Malai. It's gradually coming up. And you saw the cry of Sam Adeyemi, who claimed that the process wasn't what, and you find yourself in the strong political wings of the elite. You don't have a voice. And you can't criticize them because you are benefiting from them.
You've said, and on the last line before we wrap up in the next 1 minute or thereabouts, that the people do have the will.
Yes.
Sometimes the fix here has always been, we don't have the arms, we're not allowed to carry arms because we're just civilians, but we have a prevail for their own nefarious purposes, but it cannot stop those with genuine concerns from going out there to protest. So let's say those in power decide to keep up with the negative norms that we've seen over the years, and the people say enough is enough. It cannot continue. It is going to lead to breakdown of law and order. But the NLC did something that some have said there's a line we can toe on. But the latest development around the Labour Party at the national level, the NLC has said it will ensure no one derails the Labour Party with any of such proceedings. And could that be a line to toe going forward? Say someday Nigerians just decide, if you can't give us credible elections, we could, for instance, go on a strike, shut down activities across the country, across board. Maybe that way the leaders will learn their lesson.
We saw what happened in Brazil at some point. So like I believe when you push citizens to a certain level, a limit that they can contend with, you have to where what is going to happen, that's sitting on a time bomb. And then what we're trying to be careful a little bit of, you saw what happened during the NSARS. They felt it too. They felt it. And currently, Nigerians in diaspora, with some of these top politicians, their children are all being exposed. We held them accountable. So on a last note, we should get prepared more in the next election. Not necessarily have not been till this day clearly accepted their fault and owned up to the citizens that, oh, we made a mistake. It wasn't. We apologize for what happened. It was a mistake. So if the leaders cannot apologize to its own citizens, young people went out on the protest, the next things, they clown down with guns, shoot people dead, brutalize your citizens. want to govern them.
Which perhaps has been in circulation, but we'll hold our thoughts on that until next time. Thank you very much, Bernard Titus, for joining us on Political Spectrum today.
Thank you so much.
Well, we keep on monitoring proceedings from Abuja, where the Coalition Center for the Adamawa Guber elections has been moved off Political Spectrum. Thanks for joining us. Blyden Okem is on standby for Business 360. Until we come your way again, I'm Raymond Ita. Thanks for watching, and bye for now.